In the last 40 years, the population of Curitiba went from 600,000 to over 1,700,000 inhabitants. The pressure on the environment grew proportionally. But the city has shown the strength of its environmental awareness in the work done daily in protecting its natural areas. Aware that the development process threatens ecosystems and life niches and may lead them to the limits of extinction, the City Hall of Curitiba now launches Biocity, the Urban Biodiversity Program. This program seeks to create compatibility between urban development and environmental conservation and puts into practice a number of actions that, at the same time, will improve both the environment and people's quality of life. The program will integrate practically and conceptually urban biodiversity into the main actions of the City Hall of Curitiba. The main focus of Biocity is retrieval, valuing, and preservation of the indigenous flora, with emphasis on ornamental plants, and stimulating the population's ecological awareness by way of educational processes. Biocity begins to be implemented with the participation by the scientific community, government agencies, and the city's inhabitants. By adopting and promoting the introduction of indigenous plants in preservation areas, in street and public park tree cover, in private areas and in gardens and yards, Curitiba resurrects the environment suited to the regional biodiversity. Different education actions valuing the environment as natural heritage have already started to happen. Among these, the courses in observation of indigenous flora, gardening, and bird watching, well received and taken advantage of by the community. Other activities carried out with the community and in schools count on support from educational material, such as primers and booklets that enhance knowledge and draw attention to the diversity of life in urban ecosystems. Here in the Botanical Gardens, two new important elements were implemented in promoting the recovery of biodiversity. Greenhouse research, which allows studies of life cycle, growth habits, development patterns, and propagation systems of indigenous flora with ornamental potential. And the Indigenous Plants Garden, created to stimulate the community in valuing these species. Occupying an area of 600 square meters, this garden shows visitors 80 different indigenous ornamental plants. Reintroduce these species means helping to bring back biologic diversity to the ecosystems of Curitiba. Plus, natural dispersion will contribute to disseminating indigenous plants in the entire region. Another mechanism created by the City Hall in promoting preservation of species of indigenous flora are legal incentives, like the law of private reserve of municipal natural heritage. These reserves, known by the acronym RPPNM, belong to the system of preservation units and are equivalent to privately owned parks. The new municipal RPPNM law, approved in 2006, is an instrument that stimulates owners of green areas located in the urban environment to preserve them, offering the transfer of 100% of the area's construction potential to other parts of the city. Continually endeavoring to increase the number of preservation units, the City Department of the Environment has already identified 1,000 areas with RPPNM characteristics, the first of which has already been implemented. In its broader concept, Biocity also includes other actions by the City Hall. In this sense, the indigenous flora receives a special focus in the strategic plan to revitalize the Barigui River Basin, which encompasses a third of the municipality's territory. In addition to preserving and recovering the integrity of the basin by ordering soil occupation and depolluting its waters, this plan will also preserve the regional landscape in its new green areas. It will also afford the creation of new leisure and conservation units, and proposes to implement the Via Park, avenue whose function is consolidating the linear park of the Barigui and concretely marking out the preservation area, preventing irregular occupation along the 45 kilometers that the river covers inside Curitiba. The work carried out by the City Hall in caring for trees planted along the streets in Curitiba is another example of action that already incorporates the concept of Biocity, prioritizing the replacement of unsuitable species with trees from the regional indigenous vegetation as established by the Director Plan for Street Tree Cover. The spirit of the Biocity permeates the work of recovery of areas degraded by irregular occupation of the city's riverbanks. The action is carried out through the Land Ownership Regularization Plan, and whose first objective is the relocation of people living in permanent preservation areas. Environmental education is another way of reverting this process, by holding meetings and lectures for the community, work fronts for cleaning and planting indigenous species, in addition to installing community leisure and recreation equipment. Strategies like these sensitize, inform, and stimulate the population to participating in the permanent effort of recovering and maintaining these areas. Biocity also integrates the Green Line project, meant to revitalize the urban stretch of a former federal highway that crosses the city. The Green Line will become a major circulation axis for individual and mass transit, with bicycle lanes and pedestrian precincts, forming a linear park that will respect important environmental concepts. Public transportation vehicles will be powered by biofuels. The population will have new leisure and recreation areas. And of course, landscaping and tree cover will be carried out deploying indigenous species to the region. Information and communication actions will be carried out throughout the tenure of the Biocity to make sure that the population of Curitiba participates in each stage of this program. With Biocity, Curitiba innovates in its exemplary trajectory of promoting the adoption of good environmental practices and once again casts a generous look at its current and future populations. Based on a simple concept, the Biocity program will certainly reduce losses in urban biodiversity, showing the world that local actions can become instruments in a major project for preservation of different forms of life. Biocity. That's how the city begins to address what was discussed in March 2006 during the Convention on Biologic Diversity, COP8. Here, biodiversity is present in each one and includes every citizen. It is not by chance that Curitiba is also known as the City of People.